try to be present. Try to be present. Like, I really believe, as Denise does, it's like when couples have learned mindfulness, when both of them have learned how to be self-aware in the moment, to be non-judgmental in the moment, to be able to come openly into the moment and be there with the other person in full presence, not stuck 5 years ago, present, everything changes. I would say what our partners, our spouses, our relationships, our families want from us isn't more presence, like material presence, like Christmas gifts. It's presence. They want more sense that we are grounded right here with them, attentive to them, accepting of them, in the moment with them, not trapped in old stories, not angry about the stress or the freaking out about the worries of next week or next month's bills, but rather at dinner with them, in the moment with them, on the walk with them, living in the present with them. And this one, I would guess Denise probably brought up because it's so important in times of conflict to be present with them and to be, I would say, like, if I had to think about like my presence with Denise, when we're struggling or when we're in an argument, I would say if I could give knowing what she needs in that moment more than what I'm kind of built or I was conditioned to as I grew up, is that presence with tenderness. That presence with tenderness. I think that's what lacks in a conflict or a fight. It's like one person's so worked up and the tenderness isn't there. And I raise my hand, I got to work on that. That is one of those things. I grew up I don't know about some of you, I grew up in a super fast twitch, like very speed up to argue, very vocal, not, no, I didn't grow up around any passive aggressiveness or quiet silence and conflict and judgment. It was all verbal and very physical. I grew up in a place where there was a lot of physicality, a lot, from the neighbors, the friends, the teachers. I mean, I grew up in a place where the principal could swat you with a wooden paddle. Like, literally, you got in trouble, you got beat by a wooden paddle by the principal. Like, I grew up so like crazy like that. And so my mind, until I was probably about 25, was conditioned for that. And I recognized in a relationship when I was 25, how quickly I got angered and wanted to storm out or scream or holler, or my ego, it trapped up, but I was also just angry. I was an angry young man. I worked a decade really hard in personal development to let go of my anger that came from just how I grew up. I had to let go of that and let go of that. Not be perfect, just get a little better every day at it. But that means I was also conditioned that way. And I have to go, okay, that's a weakness of mine. And where does that come out? Usually for me, that will come out in an argument, right? If we're just not seeing something, I just feel it. I feel it literally come up. I feel the emotion of it. It just can be triggered. And what do I have to do? I've got to try to be present. That's why I love her language to this morning. I was like, oh, that's so good. I underlined try like 7 times. Just try. Put the effort back into being present with your partner or spouse, even in conflict, but also in the beautiful times. Put your dang phone down. Be at dinner with them, right? When you're intimate together, don't be staring off at the wall thinking about something else. It's like, try to be passionate, intimate again. Like, bring your awareness, your physical body, your mindset to the moment with the other person. I tell people all the time, I go, imagine you just found out your beloved partner or spouse is going to be gone in 3 days. They got a terrible diagnosis. I promise you would be so tender with them and so present. Well, none of us know when those days are going to come. None of us know we're going to lose the person. And as I've been with people towards the end, couples, all they want is to hold each other and to be tender with each other. And so being present is about living in this time zone with them right now, in the here and now, not the past, not the future, here. But it's being attentive, tender, thoughtful, and energetically co-creating together. Because some people say presence is, it sounds like presence is just tenderness and boring. I'm like, no, presence is pop and vibe and like the thrill of it all too, right? That when you went on those first couple dates with that person, you were locked in. You were interested in trying to learn about them. You cared about what your clothes looked like. You tried to smile. You tried to show some physical reaction to what they were doing. There was interest there. There was intrigue there. And you were both there, right? You're attentive. And if that relationship lasted, let's bring some of that back. That energy and the magic from that time you fell really in love, when you went crazy for each other. What was there? What was there? Intention. What was there? Mindfulness to one another. What was there? Acceptance, and also not just accepting them, but pulling them in with your presence. Like you were drawn in, right? You were drawn together, they say. What was that? That's that energy. That's that presence. That's bringing us together. We must rekindle that over and over and over in a relationship. It begins with both of us finding presence. The secret to my wellness routines is meaningful days and pursuits. Meaningful days and pursuits. Wellness to me cannot exist separate than meaning and fulfillment. I could be super healthy and fit. I can be resilient as heck. I can release all the tension in my body. But if I don't feel like the day or the series of days had some meaning or some magic to them, if I didn't feel fulfilled with the efforts I was putting in, even if that meant taking care of the home, taking care of the family, if that meant doing my art or building my business, if it doesn't feel like it matters, and I don't force myself, please listen, I don't force myself to feel fulfilled, just like I don't force myself to feel grateful, then I start going through the motions. And once I start going through the motions, it all blurs, none of it means anything, and I become unhealthy. My thoughts go into pessimism. My thoughts go into discontent. My thoughts go into discontent and pessimism and negativity, and then blahness and boredom. And so what I have to do, I have to force myself to be fulfilled. I have to literally at the end of every day, I'm like, okay, what can I be happy about today? Okay, I didn't get as far as I want. I still have a huge to-do list for tomorrow and the next 5 years. What did I do today? What one little step I can just have a little bit of celebration, a little fulfillment from? At least you tried, at least you moved the thing forward. Give yourself a little credit today, Brendon. Feel a little fulfilled even though you're behind. I literally say those words to myself. So I'm not preaching to you. That's the practice. Your self-talk about meaning and fulfillment is an advanced practice. At the end of the day, are you noting mentally and physically and mentally and verbally in your mind what you saw that you're fulfilled by and you feel good about? Even if you're still behind, even if it didn't go right, I'll honor myself. You were in motion, Brendon. You tried. You know what? You had those 40 items. You did 2 of them. Those 2, they're really going to matter towards the next couple of years. Okay, you move that ball forward. Okay, not as far as you, because see, your discontent with how far you've come is stealing your sense of meaning and fulfillment. You don't think you've progressed far enough, so you dislike yourself, you question your skills, or you hate yourself. That's mental illness. When we feel that we're never enough, does that sound like wellness? When we feel like we never give ourselves credit, nothing's ever good enough, does that feel good? It feels terrible. A lot of people are literally emotionally, mentally unwell because they just don't stop at the end of the day and go, what did I do? Where am I headed? What can I be fulfilled about? What meaningful thing happened today? Even if you know what happened today, you're fulfilled by, you made the kids a good lunch. You know what you're fulfilled by? You know, you're making your house a little more like you like it. You know what you're fulfilled by? Oh, you were kind to that person, or you took that call, you answered that text. Oh, you know what you're fulfilled by? You finished the presentation, you got the video up, you did the launch. Like, if you don't feel fulfilled on a consistent basis, don't blame what you're doing. me say it again. If you don't feel fulfilled on a consistent basis, don't blame what you're doing. Don't blame the job. Don't blame the purpose. It's that old thing in Taoism and Buddhism. Carry the pail, man. You got to be able to carry the pail, wash the dishes, live a normal life, and feel fulfilled by it. Fulfillment doesn't come with the private jet. I know a lot of people with them. They're unhappy. Fulfillment comes with our self-talk and the acknowledgement of what we are doing and where we are heading. It's a recognition and an appreciation of what our life is about and who we are becoming. Not just, am I doing the perfect thing? And so what's your fulfillment practice? How do you make yourself satisfied and fulfilled with life? Have you ever given yourself that gift? Have you ever given yourself that gift on a daily basis? Or does it come every 10 years when you achieve something? Hopefully. I know a lot of people, they live a long time still chasing fulfillment as if it will happen to them versus a decision one day to speak to themselves differently. You want more fulfillment at work? Speak to yourself differently about the actions going on at work. Give yourself credit, recognize the momentum, honor your efforts, honor the efforts of other people, recognize the ripple effect of what's going to happen. Like the ripple effect of my career, I have no idea. But every day, I feel fulfilled by it. I did one more thing today. I'm going to feel fulfilled at the end of this day, even though I've already thought of 40 things that I haven't said to you yet that I think I should say to you. I'm just be fulfilled with the session today. Put the stone in the water. The ripple effect will happen. Didn't get the stone exactly where I wanted it. Stone got in the water. You don't have to make a masterpiece every day. You got to get some oil on the canvas. Just get going. Just start and recognize yourself for those times. Recognizing and celebrating what you are doing, even if you don't think it's as big as it needs to be, that's mental health. I'll share something else that really helps me with this, and this is so key. Meaningful days and pursuits. For me, I know this is going to bore you all to death, but for me, these meaningful days and pursuits come from having a schedule and a plan. I know no one loves this one, Brendon. I knew you were going to turn it to productivity. Dang it, Brendon. I have to, because when we feel like we have momentum behind us, we do feel better. My wellness comes from a sense of progress, fulfillment in my life. But those things don't come from just showing up and self-talk. They also come from knocking stuff off the list, man, and blocking time. When I have a series of weeks or months of empty time on my calendar, I know I'm not fulfilling God's potential He put in my soul. I believe that if you are meandering your whole life, it's hard to feel fulfilled. And often people, even if they're doing good work, they don't feel they're optimizing their potential. And the truth is, sometimes that's true. Sometimes you look at their calendar, they're not doing anything. They're not scheduling. And I know that sounds so simplistic, but it's like, oh, I know a lot about your life based on your schedule. I know a lot about your life based on your calendar. I don't know everything. I don't know your internal world, but sometimes I do. Because your calendar is saying, what are you focusing on? What are you moving towards? And the meaningful days stack up when you feel like at least you move towards that thing, even if, again, you didn't get it perfect or progress perfectly towards it. And so I have just got so many activities that are on the schedule. That's when I'm going to do it. I'm going to move it forward. I might not get it done. I might not get it right. But I tried in that slot of time, and it builds self-respect. I showed up. I did what I said I was going to do. I put the effort forth. Self-respect leads to that self-efficacy, that self-esteem, those things that give us confidence. And guess what? Wellness. When you have greater self-worth and self-respect from progressing towards things that matter to you, you are more well. I know you know that. My biggest belief, my biggest teaching in all of leadership, and it's 5 simple words. People support what they create. People support what they create. This is the defining leadership principle of my life. Every time I'm working with a leader and they're frustrated with the coworker. They can't get the team to be motivated and energized. The down line isn't performing. The up line isn't listening. We got this problem where you can't mobilize a movement, and or you started a political action committee and it didn't stick, or you started your nonprofit and no one contributed. It always comes down to a fundamental misperception about this topic of leadership. Leadership's fundamental principle is that people support what they create. If you want people to follow you, they must create with you. They must feel enabled, trusted, empowered, autonomous, capable, rewarded for participating in the journey, in what we'll call the vision today, right? If they don't have any hand in shaping it, and if they have no reward, autonomy, or trust in participating in it, they got no skin in the game. They got no reason to be enthusiastic, excited, hardworking, excellent. So what happens? Well, as you see around the world, it's like we have these command and control old models from the past, these dictatorial ways of leading where it was like, do this, do this, do this, very early 1800s stuff that should have been done by the 1950s, but people are still learning. And so you have this situation where a lot of people still think of like, oh, I have positional leadership. I'm the boss, or I'm this leader. Everyone needs to only do these things. And it becomes a one-way street, or it becomes something where the leader doesn't have the connection with everybody else because no one has a part in it. They can't play yet. They don't believe in it yet. Even if they like you, even if they think you're an okay person, even if you had great successes in the past, if you don't get them collaborating to create where we're going, how we're going there, and how we'll be together, they're not interested. They'll pretend, they'll take the paycheck, but they'll be gone in 6 months. Or when the tough times hit, or the stock price goes down, they're bailing, man, because they're thinking, you know what? I'm not part of this. I'm not part of this. I'm telling you, we live in a participative global culture now where people want a voice. And so much of leadership is understanding where to open conversations to allow diverse voices to come in, have a perspective on something, even if you or the leaders maintain that decision-making authority, which we'll talk about later. The active participation and enrollment of conversation is the difference maker. And your job as a leader, listen to this, is to hold that space, to set the standard, the expectation, the structure for that space for other people to participate. Now, I know some of you, the leaders out there are like, yeah, but that's super hard, the timing of that and when, and some people have a voice, but they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're not an expert, Brendon. Why would I listen to them? And oh my gosh, does this mean more meetings for me? Don't worry. This isn't about you doing more meetings just to listen casually. We'll get to those practices later. The principle I want you to write down: people support what they create. The 5 most important words in all of leadership: people support what they create. If you get that principle, we can change the world. When you don't get that principle, you don't get the followers. Now, with that, I want to introduce a concept, that I've literally been teaching for 21 years now. I don't like the word followers. I don't like the word leaders versus, or the positioning leaders versus followers. If you studied with me before, I really believe you have leaders, and instead of followers, you have collaborators. It's just a different way of defining things. Unfortunately, in our world, because of popularity and ego, when someone follows you on the internet, it all became about a one-way street. And so now we've ingrained in people's human behavior this idea that I broadcast my world and you should follow it. That's come into organizations. I tell you what to do and you should follow it. Versus, hey, we're co-creating this organization together. We're co-creating this team. You're going to have some people on your team who are super participative, and other people, they were never given autonomy or trust or a voice, and they're super smart, but you're not getting enough from them. They just need to be enrolled to participate in a different way than the person who's always had the benefit of being in communities where they were heard. We live in a world right now where so many people have never actually been heard. Then we expect them to perform as high performers in their organizational settings. It's like, oh, you have to be aware of these things. Some members of your team and some members of your family haven't been heard, haven't felt heard, haven't been allowed space for it. And I don't just mean listen to, I mean being allowed space to make decisions together about what's important. Take a look at the most critical members of your team. Maybe this is your executive team, or the most important people in your life, your family, and look at each of them individually through this lens. It's like, oh, has this person been co-creating the experience with me? Have they been active in that or passive in that? And not as a judgment to them, like a 1, they're bad. It's that, oh, if they are a 1, I, as a leader, need to create a process, a rhythm, a meeting, an opportunity for this person to get some decision-making authority, to establish some trust, to, if anything, to be heard more in meetings. Maybe this person is never called on. They never get the opportunity. And you're gonna like, oh, I'm gonna be aware this person has not been participating. And I need that participation from them if we're gonna have long-term success, and we need to participate together. So let me have that. So I'm always thinking about that and when I work with leaders and I coach them in high performance, it's always about, okay, let's work through your team. Let's walk through this principle and let's talk about each of these critical team members and do they feel empowered to be part of the process? Because people support what they create is ultimately people being part of the process. Because guess what? When they're part of the process, they've helped come up with the decisions, they're working towards something they had a hand in, they fight for it. They stay focused on it. They have ego and decision-making in that process, and they want to protect it. When someone has an idea, you know what they want to do? They want to own that, they want to protect that, they want to perpetuate that, they want to ensure that that idea lives. When people are allowed to participate, better ideas come up, people have more buy-in, people stay committed over the long term, humans become more resilient themselves. It's important. It's so important. So please, take an active role in this day. Score yourself, be honest. And think about this and how you can amplify this. If all you did is understand this principle and you practice this principle at the deepest levels, you would so far surpass almost everybody you're working with, I promise. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.